Hello, this is Froogle and welcome to part 2 of my look at FS2CREW for the 737 NGX and, oh, let me turn my microphone off, and PMDG's 737 NGX. I didn't show you the plane last time because I was a little bit worried about screwing things up. I'm not so worried now. There it is. Using the default PMDG livery. It comes with a ton of liveries, but that's the one I'm using right now. So it's a 737-800 with winglets. And you'll remember from the first video we did all the cold and dark startup, did the pushback, now we're getting ready to taxi. I've just done the before taxi checklist, I am ready to go. And for those who are just joining us, the green bar you keep seeing popping up on the screen is actually FS2CREW picking me up. Although I have it muted, it will still pick me up, it just won't act on it. But for those who just joined us, this is the PMDG 737 tutorial flight 1. But I've extended it a little bit because I wanted to do cold and dark startup and I wanted to really exercise FS2CREW, since I have to write an article on it. So we're ready to go. I am going to call clear on the left and clear on the right, and we will just start moving, I think. Let me just turn off some of the notifications I've got popping up in Windows because they're screwing with my brain. There we go. And I'll talk to you as we start moving. So brakes off, turn my mic on. Clear on the left.
Clear on the right.
And we're rolling. Now, as I said in the previous one, because this is tutorial flight 1, PMDG tried to keep it quite simple. So it's a preset weather theme, it's clear blue skies, no wind. I did actually just run this flight with wind, it was very interesting. I'm not going to do that again for this video because I'll screw up. But it's very, very simple. In the second tutorial flight, which I will cover in video as well, it gets a lot more complex. But for now, it's very, very simple. We're not using air traffic control. Again, that just confuses the matter right now. At the moment, I am still getting used to flying this aircraft because you might remember I don't normally fly jets at all. So I'm very unfamiliar with how a 737 works and have been pretty much studying the 3,000 pages of documentation that come with this thing for the past 6 weeks or so. I do have traffic turned on, as you can see from the huge jet in front of me. Hopefully that doesn't cause us a problem. Got 16 knots ground speed. Also, I'm still using EasyDock for the cameras rather than Track IR. I love this thing. It's actually really, really cool. And for flying this plane in particular, oops.
Yes, okay, thanks. Captain, the cabin is secure.
Thank you. There we go. For flying this plane in particular, oh, see, not the best taxi in the world, we're going to collide with an incoming 737. It's actually a lot easier than using Track IR. I can be a lot more, Jesus Christ, I can be a lot more precise with where I put my head. Okay, maybe I should have turned traffic off. Now, because we're not using air traffic control, I don't have an assigned set of taxiways to follow, which is why we just had that unfortunate moment live on camera. I was trying to go to the right to avoid him. That obviously didn't work. Incidentally, with that hard braking, you have this PA button in FS2CREW, and you could talk to your passengers. Look, I can actually bring up the PA here, and it's not totally applicable, but it's kind of cool. Look, listen.
Ladies and gentlemen from the flight deck, sorry about the rather sharp braking there. We got a little light on the dashboard, nothing very serious, but we'd prefer to have that light out before we actually take off. So we'll see if we can sort that out, and we'll keep you appraised of the situation. Thank you.
Now that obviously does nothing to the state of the aircraft. It doesn't really affect the flight at all. It's just neat. And I also found from the last video there's this knob here. See this cab knob? That was turned off. That seems to be turned off by default. If you turn it on by holding down the right mouse button on it, so you're basically turning the volume up, you actually get cabin noise. So when you're flying, you hear the cabin crew making their announcements and all sorts of lovely stuff like that, which is actually pretty damn cool. I didn't know that. Anyway, so you remember from the first flight, we'd set the route up, fairly simple route. Now, I've been having a chat with Joe Lavery. Now, Joe is another writer for PC Pilot. He is a lot more into heavy jets than I am, in that he has an extremely understanding wife. This guy has built a full-size 737 cockpit in his house, and it's that good. It runs Project Magenta's 737, and it's that good that he actually has real 737 pilots come to his house and mess with it. It's that awesome. And he's tried the NGX, but obviously he prefers the Project Magenta one because it integrates with all his switches and dials and knobs in his actual cockpit. But he was talking to me about the LNAV VNAV thing because I had some problems engaging that in the last video. And you know, there's a bit of contention, not contention, there's some discussion. The PMDG tutorial flights have me arming LNAV and VNAV autopilot modes on the ground. And reading some of the Boeing documents, they're actually not normally engaged until about 400 feet up in the air. So I could engage them here on the ground, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave them just where they are. And I'm going to try to use FS2CREW to get my co-pilot to turn those on once we start climbing above 400 feet. It's a little hit and miss. He seems to understand the command, but it's a little hit and miss as to whether or not he actually turns them on, or the plane lets me turn them on. I'm not entirely sure why. That bloody jet. Look, what the hell is... oh my goodness. I bet he turns left and ruins my whole video. And makes me consider restarting the whole thing. Please don't turn left. Please don't turn left. Okay. We are on the right taxiway for the active runway. We're going to 8 right, so I guess we have to follow the large, hulking, great big AI plane. Fun. Yeah, so the VNAV LNAV thing, I'm going to wait till we get above 400 feet. I'm going to fly it manually to that point, which I'm not very good at. You know, there's a lot of... to fly this 737, you need to be flying it not just by the numbers, but by the FMC, which is saying I need to be climbing out at 143, and I need this angle, and so on and so on. And it's actually pretty hard to manage that. I haven't done a whole lot of manual flying with the 737 yet. I do intend to, and I do intend to maybe put up some videos of circuits, flying circuits in this thing, and doing touch and goes, and everything you would normally go through to train on this aircraft, which is effectively what I'm doing. But right now it's a little hit and miss, so bear with me if my angle on takeoff is a little weak, or a little too strong, a little bit too shallow. I'm still getting there, and I'm trying not to have the autopilots do everything. That said, in the third part of this series, the final part of this series, when we land, I am going to use auto land for that. In the next set of videos where we look at tutorial 2, that's landing at Innsbruck, and I will be doing the what is it, ILS VOR DME 27 or whatever it is approach, the nasty one at Innsbruck, and I'll be flying that manually. Yeah, I'm that confident. Okay. So we're just going to go all the way down here to runway 8 right. That's runway 8 left, to my left. I could actually do the before takeoff checklist at this point, so I'm going to. Part of this checklist, by the way, with FS2CREW is to call out the stab trim. According to my FMC, let's go down here to the FMC. Trim is 5.04. Now I have set 5.04. And every time I try to read it out to the co-pilot, he just doesn't want to know. So I'm just going to say set for that and kind of skip it. Before takeoff checklist.
Flaps.
Flaps 5, green light.
Stabilize the trim.
Set.
Before takeoff checklist complete.
And we're all good now until we get to the runway. He will tell the cabin crew to sit down.
Cabin crew and take your seats.
Which is pretty cool. Now it's all up to me. We've got auto throttle armed. When we actually get on the runway, I'm going to advance the throttles to 40%. Let them stabilize. I am using 2 throttle levers, which is why if you see my engine dials right now, they're a little bit out of sync with each other. One is slightly higher than the other. In fact, one is really quite considerably higher than the other. There we go. They're both pretty much in sync now. So I'm going to try to stabilize the engines around 40%. Then I'm going to press this area on the dash. There's actually a button on the side of the throttles. That one. Which is the toga button. Take off, go around. And that will use auto throttle to advance the engines to maximum power, and away we go. You'll remember as well from the previous video that we do have derated engines. We're trying to do this thing by the book. So I don't have maximum thrust available from the engines during the climb to conserve fuel. You know, in the airlines they're all about conserving fuel, so we're going to do the same thing. But once we get up above, say, 15,000 feet, then that derate will be removed and we'll have maximum power for the full climb out to flight level 250. The actual takeoff is fairly uneventful. At 400 feet, I'm going to start arming LNAV and VNAV. At about 1,500 feet, that's acceleration altitude. So I need to have my flaps up at that point. I'll engage Command A autopilot, and it will take over at that point. We'll stay at 5,000 feet until we pass the DET waypoint, DET, Delta Echo Tango. And then the next waypoint after that, we will be climbing, sorry, at DET we'll be climbing to 6,000 feet, and the next waypoint after that we'll be climbing all the way out to flight level 250. This is a very short flight. Once you actually hit the cruise, you only have about 10 minutes before you're starting descent. But I will split the video at that point. Taxiing this is interesting. This thing is kind of like a Cadillac. It's very wallowy. My rudder pedals probably need servicing. It's a little bit bouncy. But it's pretty cool. I'm just above idle power on the engines. You need bugger all power to get this thing moving. As you would expect, those two engines are massive. Alright, turning around now. I'm just going to roll my view over here. There we are. Kind of lost momentum there. Use EasyDock to just reset my view there. It's a lot easier than me screwing with it. Okay, now at this point, if we were using ATC, we would be asking for clearance to enter the runway. They would be giving it, hopefully, and away we go. It's runway 8 left that is active, so we're going 8 right, so we don't have any risk of planes landing on us, which is kind of useful. So let's do this runway entry procedure. The co-pilot actually does all this himself, which is kind of neat. I think, let me just check my notes here, make sure I don't have to do anything very, very vitally important. Nope. It's all him. Alright, here we go. Runway entry procedure.
Check. Clear on the approach. Ready to go.
Thank you. Alright, so let's get lined up on the runway and then we'll go all the way through takeoff. Okay, had one of those delightful FSX crashes that happen from time to time when you run enough add-ons as I am running. Delightful. So I've reset the aircraft, we're back on the runway, I've gone through all the setup once again. Let me just show you what we're going to do real quick down here, because we didn't actually walk through this in the previous video. So I'm going to take off, runway heading 079, start climbing. At 400 feet I'll start engaging LNAV and VNAV, hopefully. Let me turn the range up on this. I'm going to turn to the right, and then there we go. That's what we want to see. So over here at DET, we're going to hold 5,000 all the way up until DET. Then we're going to climb to 6,000 for the next waypoint, and at that waypoint we'll climb out to flight level 250. Should be fairly uneventful, but obviously fairly busy. So as I think I said in the previous video before I cut it, I'm not going to talk to you guys for a minute. I've got to concentrate on what I'm doing and make sure I really have got everything set up the way it should be set up. I think I do. I think we do. I think we're good. Alright, so here we go. 40% on the engines. I'm going to unmute the mic so I can talk to the aircraft. A little bit high on the right engine. Takeoff.
Check. knots.
Check.
V1. Rotate. Positive right.
Gear up.
Gear up.
Select LNAV.
Gear up, lights out. LNAV.
Select VNAV.
VNAV.
Flaps 1.
Flaps 1.
Select Command A.
Command A.
And there we go. So the autopilot's now taking over. That's what the Command A call was there. It's just putting us a little bit, I was a little off course, just putting us back on course. Actually did pretty good at holding the speed, I thought. Just watching those flaps at this point. Once we hit this 1 marker, we can start thinking about pulling the flaps all the way up. That's what these markers here, by the way, are. And down here, they're flap numbers, 1 and then flaps up. So accelerating. Flaps up.
Flaps up.
As soon as that turns wide up there, I can do the after takeoff checklist. We're going to climb up to 5,000 now. He's just cleaning up his side of the cockpit.
Checklist.
After takeoff checklist.
Engine bleeds. On. Packs. Auto. Landing gear. Up and off. Flaps. Up. No lights. After takeoff checklist complete.
And that's actually pretty cool because what he's done here, I have my landing lights on. He should have turned them off. He actually hasn't. I mean, now they're off. Lights are... Oh, no, actually they should be on. He turns those off at 10,000. My bad, but everything else is good. There are no other lights in the cockpit. The aircraft systems are taken over now.
1,000 to go.
And we are climbing out. Once we get to 5,000, I'm going to instruct the co-pilot to go ahead and set up the MCP up here for the next altitude, the next step in our climb. Just go look at the display unit. That's where we are. At det is when we can do the next climb. Just watch this altitude right here. You should call it out when we level. We are in LNAV and VNAV path, which is very cool. As soon as that changes the VNAV out, it's basically the computer telling us, flight computer's telling us it wants to climb, which is when we'll do the next stage of the climb here. Alright, we're level there. So let's go ahead and do the next bit. Set altitude 6,000. You can see he's adjusting the
Altitude 6,000.
altitude for the next leg here, which is very cool. And what actually happens is once we reach that point, and these are all parts of the SID, various aspects of the SID, and noise control and everything else, we head a certain way at a certain altitude, then we step up, and then we have full climb power after that, so we don't disturb any residents and things like that. But the next step is, once we hit that det waypoint, we would press this altitude intervene. That's actually on his side of the cockpit, so I'm going to make him do it. I mean, that's what he's here for, right? Let's look around. So nice clear skies, no wind, very simple flight. And if I change this range here actually, and we look at the flight plan, you'll see it's a very, very short flight. There's our top of climb right there. Our top of descent is right there. It's only about 60 miles. Not very far at all. So pretty much once you reach top of climb, I'm going to be doing... I'll split the video right about there actually, and then we'll come back here and I'll do descent checklists and descent briefing, approach briefing and all that good stuff. Right over there, and we'll use him to set up the radios because we're going to do an ILS 18 right approach, so I'll use him to set up the radios and so on and so on. I'm still very much amazed by the depth of this aircraft and by FS2CREW. I keep finding more features in FS2CREW that I didn't know about. Like just now when I had the FSX crash, I came back in, I positioned the aircraft on a runway, I used the FMC menus down here to put the aircraft in a powered up state, and then I can just use these arrows to walk FS2CREW to sync up its state with the aircraft state. Very nice, lots of flexibility there. And on some of these config menus, which I'm not going to click now because I don't want to screw stuff up, but lots of flexibility there to tell FS2CREW what you're going to be doing. You know, that you're not just going to be flying a straight trip. You might be doing circuits and all that other stuff, which is awesome. Lots of flexibility. I am very much looking forward to mastering this aircraft and then getting online with VATSIM and walking through a proper flight with air traffic control doing their usual silliness of changing height, changing waypoints and stuff like that. And in the second flight that I cover in these videos, when I do tutorial 2, I'm going to show you some of the stuff that you can do with the FMC down here to offset a route, you know, to avoid bad weather, to set a fix in here as a radial and a distance from a VOR. Tons and tons of flexibility down here. I'm really digging it. After everything I said in that first video, that I never ever wanted to fly this kind of plane because it felt a little too much like managing systems. It actually is managing systems, but there's so much depth to them that it's completely absorbing. It's really, really good fun. So I don't regret this. I'm actually looking at buying the MD-11 next. I should point out as well, just for the sake of full disclosure, for those of you that are looking at these videos as a review, I bought the 737. I actually bought the PMDG 737 myself with my own money. I bought EasyDock camera utility that I'm using rather than Track IR with my own money. The only thing that I've got for free as a reviewer is FS2CREW, because obviously I'm working on an article for it. And I'm not going to give you my opinion of that. You see what my opinion is because I'm using it. And I will summarize in the last video what I think my opinion is. And there will be obviously a lot more detail in the article in PC Pilot when that comes out. Pimp it, pimp in PC Pilot. Alright, so we're still in VNAV path, waiting for that to flash up, VNAV out, and then we can start the climb on the next step, which should be any minute now. By the way, I did, in speaking to real 737 pilots, this HUD is actually very rarely used. It's used more in simulators because you don't have a good sense of what's going on, you don't have good peripheral vision in the sim than it is in the actual aircraft. Many of them find it gets in the way and they don't like it. So that's good to know. I'm using it, I kind of like it. I like being able to look out the window and see what the heck my aircraft is doing. Alright, getting ready here, looking at VNAV path, waiting for that to change. And then we will get our co-pilot doing what he does. Our first officer, I'm sorry, not co-pilot, first officer. Apparently there's a difference. Where's my water? Nasty cough. Love the sounds in this aircraft as well. I'm going to talk to you about the sounds in a second actually when we get past this next step. Because I found out something very cool. Autopilot there holding 250 knots since we are less than 10,000 feet. That would be the law. Select altitude intervene.
Altitude intervene set.
And you'll see it nose up and we'll start that climb. I expected that to flash up VNAV out, not VNAV speed, but okay. Now we're on path again, which is good. Let him climb up to 6,000. We'll set the next flight level, which is actually a flight level of 250. It's full on climb. $58.50. Notice he set up his displays differently. It's kind of cool. Are we there? Are we passing it? We're about to pass it. And we're just coming up on 6,000 now. There, VNAV out. Set altitude 25,000.
Double check that, please.
Set flight level 250. So it's good, he corrected me because it's not in the flight plan to be 28,000.
Transition altitude altimeters at 1013.
Check.
Flight level 250 set.
Check. Select altitude intervene.
Altitude intervene set.
And there we go, into the full climb. Yeah, so what I found out is they actually recorded a lot more depth to the sounds in this PMDG 737 than you might notice if you're playing with headphones, as I am, or flying with headphones. Apparently there's a lot of very low frequency sound, and I tried this out. You can actually set up in FS2CREW here. You see this HS button? That means headset. So you can go into config and you can tell it which device your headset is, then click on headset and it will play all the radio sounds from your first officer through your headset. And then obviously in FSX you can set up your output sound device to be something else. So I did that the other day. I set it up with my output device to be the couple of speakers I've got on my desk and a subwoofer underneath the desk. I cranked up the power on the subwoofer and did the takeoff roll. Oh my goodness, my chair was shaking, lots of rumble, lots of vibration. It felt so realistic, absolutely incredible. And obviously those of you that have seen some of my other videos on the Froogle Peak channel know that normally when I play stuff like this or fly stuff like this, I'm actually running 3 monitors, 3 24-inch monitors, and I normally have my cockpit spanning all 3 screens. So imagine how immersive that is. You've got this Infinity 59,000 wide by 1080 screen resolution going on. It's fantastic. Oh, thank you. So he's waiting now for descent checklist, and he's turned off the landing lights as I mistakenly thought he would. He's turned off the engine switches here from continuous to off or flight. I think that's off actually. Yeah, it is off, as it should be, and he's configured everything as he should. So now we just keep climbing and let the autopilot manage everything and him manage everything, and life is pretty damn good. Let's see what we can do on the PA here. Oh, nothing yet. When we get to the top of the climb, there, then we can go speak to the passengers and tell them that they can go pee or whatever else they want to do. Aircraft's accelerated now above 250 because we're above 10,000 feet. It will take us no time at all to reach 25,000 feet. Life is good. There's another jet up there. Let's pop outside and take a look at this now as flying. There she is. I don't have my keys set up to pan around using Easy Dog. I apologize for that. All I can do is jump around. There you go. It's a beautiful model. I should point it out as well, one of the things that EasyDock does, even if you're using Track IR, is head bounce and head movement. So you can see it a little bit there, but if I zoom in here, look how much that cockpit is moving around, which is real. You know, it's a real aircraft. You feel movement, especially in the cockpit here. So it's moving the cockpit around in response to the bumps and turbulence and airflow of the aircraft itself, which is very, very cool. Love that. Alright, let's change the range on this a little bit out so we have a better view of our flight plan. That's a bit better. That's a lot better. So there's our top of climb just after the CLN or Clacton waypoint. Engines are now running at not derated. They were CLB1, now they're just CLB, which means the derate's been removed now, and we have full power available for the climb. So 97% running through the engines, tons of power, forcing us up. All these switches work. I mentioned that before. I can show you some of them now. I can change the MFD view here, different engine readouts, copy them down there as well. I'm sorry, I kind of get a bit giggly. It's very nerdy at the amount of things you can do in this cockpit. Absolutely amazing. Love it so much. Really, really enjoying this aircraft. I can change my views here. So these are my main panel DUs, display units. And I have switches down here for other display unit. Brightness isn't changing. So what I can do up here is I can say my main panel display units, I can set them as normal. My lower panel display units, I can set, where are they actually? I think it's I don't know what they are actually, but I can set those up as engine priority or whatever else. So I can just flick these through here. Hopefully this doesn't break anything. There we go. Engine priority, flight displays, and switching back to normal, which is cool. You have a bunch of, oh, don't crash again. Oh, I thought it was going to crash again. You have a bunch of switches up here as well, buttons up here, which change this display. So you have a full terrain radar here, you have a weather radar right here as well. Haven't tried those yet. We'll try those in one of the other videos. Especially the Innsbruck video I'm going to do, because terrain there as we fly down that valley, approaching Innsbruck, is going to be phenomenal. Alright, so we're just leaving the coast of England now. Flying east, as we should be. It's the coast of mainland Europe in the distance. Holland is right about there. Amsterdam is right about there. That's where we're going, over the North Sea. 22,000 feet. Climbing like a freight train. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful aircraft. A few people have suggested I try out the iFly 737NG as well. They have the 737 BBJ in that package. It's a bit simpler than the PMDG one. Not much, but a bit. Less detail on the systems modeling. I might do that. I'm very curious to see that. But I would have to buy FS2CREW at that point. I'm kind of giving away my view of it. I don't think I could fly this aircraft without FS2CREW. That's how cool it is. So I'll probably wait, just go for the MD-11 and get FS2CREW for that. Here it comes leveling off now. So with him leveling off, we can tell our passengers.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck, we've just reached our cruise altitude, and that means the seatbelt lights will be going off, so if you feel the need to answer the call of nature, you're free to do so. However, while you are in your seat, we'd appreciate it if you do what we do up here and keep your seatbelt fastened for safety reasons. Thank you very much.
So with that done, let's reinforce the point. Seatbelts off, do a chime, and we're good. I can even at this point, with FS2CREW, ask for a cup of coffee. It doesn't always work, but we'll try it. One coffee, please.
Okay, I'll be up in a moment. Hello.
How cool is that? There's a bit of a bug with her saying hello. I'm not using the latest FS2CREW, by the way. There is a patch which gives you a live Google map as well, which is kind of cool. She'll be back in a minute. She'll be back with my coffee in a minute. And then we'll end the video. So once again, I'm sorry about the break in the video. That's due to an FSX crash. In the third and final part of this series, we will do the descent, and we'll use FS2CREW to set up the radios, and we'll fly the full descent and landing, but it will be an auto land, just so you know. Just so you know. Where's my coffee? Bring my coffee. Here she is.
Hello, gentlemen. Here are your drinks.
Thank you.
Anytime.
How cool is that? I wish I had a real one of them. Thanks for watching. Once again, my name is Froogle. See you soon.